And this particular panel discussion, we're looking at leveraging the power of AI and technology for global health impact. Allow me please to introduce our guests so they can come onto the stage. Vineet Kumar, SVP Technology M42, Paul Jones, CEO, BioPharma Solutions AI Life Sciences Platform M42, Elena Bonfiglioli, the Global Business Leader for the Health and Life Sciences of Microsoft. Please give my panelists a big round of applause as we take to the stage. And if I may ask you all to grab your mics so you're ready to go. Fantastic. Elena, I'm going to begin with yourself. Now, Microsoft, of course, is a key player in healthcare cloud innovation. Let's bring our audience up to speed. When we speak about that innovation, what are we talking about exactly, and exactly what kind of impact is it having?
Yes, good morning. It's good to see so many of you. How many believe that when we think about healthcare, data is key by the show of hand? If you're paying attention, yes, that's it. That's basically how you bring it to life. If you really want to bring healthcare to the future, you need to have tools that allow all of our data, what is in the doctor's note, what is our own composition, so omics data and images and all the data to come together. So what Microsoft really does as a platform and AI company is to give clinicians and researchers the tools to go really multimodality, meaning looking at all the data that allow to do diagnostics, to do the care, and to do the prevention. It seems trivial, but to bring in one unique platform all the different data with all the different standards, with all the interoperability, is not such an easy journey. But we've made incredible progress, particularly thanks to the partnership with M42.
And a quick follow-up, as you say, it's quite a long process to get to this stage. Microsoft, of course, have a wonderful relationship with the UAE and with M42 as well. What makes this place quite unique for you to work with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish, if I had a wish, I wish there were more places like this place. Unique vision, unique regulatory framework, unique availability of data that are multimodal, unique mindset of collaboration, bringing all the players together, and then I would say a bias for action and speed. I remember more or less a year ago, we announced the vision and with M42 and actually, thanks to Vineet and colleagues, this vision is now coming to fruition. The pace from vision to implementation is like no other one.
So vision, speed, and that idea of like initiative to action, it sounds like a powerful combination.
And regulatory framework.
The important stuff.
Very important.
The very important stuff.
If not, you can't make it happen. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's hear a bit more about those details, the collaborations, and also some of the kind of behind the scenes of what goes on. Paul, with your leadership in large-scale genomics programs, I'm really intrigued to share with our audience here, when we speak about initiatives like the Emirati Genome Program, Elena has already said that this place is unique. That's a unique program to the UAE, of course. What kind of implications and what can we learn about those kind of partnerships when it comes to transforming healthcare delivery?
So if you think about what does exist in the UAE here, you've got a wonderful ecosystem. And so government-sponsored programs that have the potential to have an impact on a clinical system within the UAE, geographically bound, the healthcare system of the UAE, massive implications for the way that the innovation that is around the large-scale genome program can translate into something that can have a benefit for individual patients. But at the same time, there's an opportunity to engage the global research community, the global industry community, biotech, pharma, to help translate the insights that in the future will have an impact on a local level. So there's a wonderful interweaving between the clinical impact that you can have locally in a healthcare system and the potential to engage a global research community through the right interface, through the right permissions, to facilitate the unlocking of the value that sits in that data set and translate it into value for an individual patient. So there's that potential interweaving is the way I would describe it, that interlocking between those two different agendas. The other dimension that sits underneath this, I think, is the potential to stimulate economic development on the basis of that. And so attracting investment, unlocking new business insights that could be turned into businesses, attracting people to be based here that want to set businesses up. So there is an economic underpinning to this interweaving between the research and the clinical agenda. So I think all of those three components together in an ecosystem, as Elena indicated, which is, I think, quite unique in terms of how powerful it can be in terms of accelerating and delivering the value more quickly. So those are the components, I think, that are so critical on the back of something like the Emirati Genome Programme.
And I think that context is really important for us to understand, so I appreciate you outlining it for us. When it comes to the Emirati Genome Programme, in case in our audience people aren't familiar, and you've played an instrumental role, bring us up to speed with that.
So the Emirati Genome Programme is an initiative focused on sequencing the whole of a local population in the UAE. So 1 million local Emiratis are part of the programme, and as we sit here today, in excess of 700,000 local Emiratis have been sequenced as part of the programme. So blood samples have been taken, that's been collected, the DNA has been extracted, and that has been sequenced as part of the agenda. So 7/10 of the local population have engaged around this innovative Emirati Genome Programme, where the intention, as I say, is to deliver individualized, personalized value from that connection to the genome program, whilst stimulating an engagement around the research agenda. So effectively what you have is, I would almost without question say, the largest genome program in the world in relation to the percentage of the population that has been sequenced. And I myself have been involved in this agenda, particularly around large-scale programs for the last decade or so. We always used to give a challenge to the countries that we talk to, say, which will be the first country in the world to sequence the whole of its local population, and what implications will that have for the way that you drive healthcare differently? Because it gives you the potential opportunity to genuinely start shifting the emphasis in healthcare from illness management towards prevention, early detection, identifying optimal treatments based on the genetic profile of an individual. And we are just at the beginning. There is the opportunity then to add on layers of innovation around additional omics that can unlock even more value over time. And so it's the weaving together of these multiple agendas to deliver ultimately patient value that's been driven with one of the largest programs in the world, where we are 7/10 of the way towards the ultimate goal of sequencing the whole of the local population and unlocking what that might mean for how it drives innovation in a health system.
I appreciate you sharing that insight, because it's such an innovative program and it's such a great example of bringing together exactly what we've been speaking about so far. And very quickly, when did it begin, the genome program?
So only 4 years ago.
That's
I can't claim any credit. I've only joined 10 months ago, so I'm not responsible. The wonderful work that's been done by the team was initiated during COVID. And we're at a point now where we're just within 4 years, 70% of the population has been sequenced, and I'm anticipating within the next 12 months or so, we will get to the point where we've sequenced the whole of the local population and start to look at what comes next and how do you unlock the value in that opportunity.
And the key word you used repeatedly there was unlocking value, unlocking the data, and unlocking kind of potentials for the future. So Vineet, this is a key point to bring yourself in. Part of the M42 family, of course, you are the SVP of Technology at M42 and a leading figure when it comes to the M42's life sciences platform. I'd like you to share your insight in terms of when it comes to these platforms, how they can unlock by combining the clinical, genomic, and real-world data when it comes to transforming healthcare provision?
That's a great question. So, first of all, it's amazing to be sitting with these global leaders here. Unlocking the potential of the data. So, the first thing that we did at M42 was not just running the Emirati Genome Program, which is decoding the entire human genome of, as Paul said, 700,000 people. But then you have other data assets. You have their healthcare data. It's longitudinal, about 15 years old. So every visit, every lab test has been recorded. And then we also operated on the data related to claims, insurance claims. So that started building all of the 360-degree view on how the data gets combined. Now, how this came into being was at a pretty feverish speed within the last 12 months when Microsoft came in. There was a company, G42, called Core42 that was born. So the first thing we did was making sure that we follow 5 safe principles, how the data is kept safe. So that's called a trusted research environment. So that's what we build. It's like safe people, safe projects, safe outputs, safe settings. All that was built by using a sovereignty layer around the whole platform, which has around, if you want details, there are around 140 plus security controls that Core42 built around this platform. Next came in Microsoft. Amazingly, the scalable data platform they have, Microsoft Fabric, Azure confidential compute, all of these things from the Microsoft platform was applied to the life sciences platform. And the biggest differentiator of this platform has been it's been built with an AI-first approach. Because we have built our own models, the medical knowledge base that we built called M42. It sits right next to all of these data, the genomics, the healthcare data. And what this is unlocking now is the ability for a researcher or regulators to be chatting with their data. That's what they call chat with your data. It gives you conversational powers. So we are, right now, we are exactly at that moment when all those powers are being unleashed. However, in the last 9 months, what we've also done is taken all of this data and started generating reports, precision medicine reports in different layers of healthcare for medication management, for early screening, for pre-IVF screening, making sure that healthy babies are predicted before they happen. So this is like cutting edge stuff. And it's a great time right now when all of these things are coming together.
And as you said there, it echoes back to Paul's answer about prevention, precision, actually identifying some of these issues early on as opposed to being reactive. So it's that proactive approach that M42 are taking with partners like Microsoft. I'm going to throw it to the audience just now and just ask if anyone's got a question. Our panelists have beautifully outlined their areas of expertise. We have one question there. If you can get the microphone from my team to the lady in the front row here. Or I can give you my microphone. May I ask the team to... Where is my wonderful team? Yes, please. Can we get a microphone here? And if anybody else has a question? If you can introduce yourself and who you'd like to ask a question to.
Hi, my name is Huda Raphael, and actually I used to work in clinical trials and in oncology. So my question to you is about now, data in clinical trials. So, the drugs that we have on the market here, that's, all of us here in this country are getting treated with are based on clinical trials that happened in a population with a different genetic component, in the US or in Europe. So their efficacy, their toxicity is based on a certain genetic components that's different than, the population here. How this is going to actually, it's amazing to hear, what you're talking about, and it's just fascinating. How you're going to connect this that we will have here as a, a different population that, are there here clinical trials that are going to run to see what's the best method of treatment or what best medication to be used? And then how AI is going to be used to really analyze all this data. Thank you so much.
Would you like to take that? Thank you.
I think you bring up an excellent point in terms of the time is now that we have these clusters of newly defined multi-data capabilities like they've built here to think about how we connect them for more inclusive trials and how do we look at safety, how do we look at efficacy, how do we look at basically even rerunning some of those trials, if you think about drug repurposing even. So there is a great opportunity to leverage that digital asset to strengthen the ecosystem, to have collaboration with pharma life science organizations, and to make Abu Dhabi actually a unique place for clinical trials in action, in real-world evidence action, because that is actually the capital for the health of the future. So I wish there was more of this, but that is totally possible.
And if I can bring in Paul?
Could I just add two quick points from my side? I think there are definitely implications in terms of the data set that we are generating here to complement that which exists elsewhere in the world and add a dimension of diversity that means that in the future precision medicines can also be tailored towards the nuances of the local population here. So that's one key point I would emphasize. The second one is really this principle of recruiting for clinical trials, precision clinical trials, being able, instead of the old model, when I say the old model, the model that dominates the world over today, as it exists today, it often relies on individual patients turning up at a doctor's office, the information being collected, and it's a very slow process of identifying whether the right criteria are in place to include a patient in a trial or not. If you turn the whole model on its head and say, well, we're looking for a certain phenotype, looking for a certain genotype, we have a data set of 7/10 currently, and potentially the whole of a population in the not too distant future, you can start to determine very, very quickly whether you can identify individuals for a clinical trial literally at the flick of a switch. In seconds, you have the permission to recontact those individuals through the right mechanism in the healthcare system, and then to be able to recruit those patients to trial. It completely transforms the clinical trial agenda, and it sets a precedent for why other countries in the world should also drive an agenda to do large-scale genome sequencing, because it fundamentally shifts the emphasis from relying on serendipity to find people to being very targeted, very precise, very specific in the profile of individual you're looking for, that you then have the permission to recruit into a trial.
A great question, very fruitful answer, so thank you so much for that. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to throw to more audience questions because we are running out of time, but just to say our panelists are super approachable, so do grab them in person here on the M42 main stand. We've got a few minutes on the clock, so may I ask you and invite you all to maybe look at this issue of leveraging AI when it comes to the global health impact and share right now a challenge you see, but an opportunity as well. We often forecast to the future, forecasting 5 years in advance, and that's an easy approach. Right now, Vineet, what's a challenge you foresee in that field, and what's a key opportunity?
I think the first challenge is around access to the data. Because this type of data is high security data. So let's say even answering your question for other regions. So do you get the pharmas and the researchers over here, but the data is here? That doesn't help them. So this platform, the software should be the one going over there, adhering to the residency requirements, and then carrying on the research over there. That's one side. But the whole journey of a life sciences platform going into another country, it's a complete build, operate, transfer workflow that happens where it takes easily 3 to 5 years. And we are fortunate, as Elena was saying, this region is, with this bias to action, they brought it down to like 2 years, less than 2 years. This whole journey was made possible of once the data is there. Now, how do you unlock the potential? Right, so the regulatory requirements, the data residency, those things are kind of impediments. They are needed, but they are also impediments and challenges in how fast you unlock the potential. That's one of the things I can see, but I'm sure.
Okay, so access to data, fantastic. We're going to give Elena the final word. So Paul, if you may share a challenge and an opportunity that you foresee.
Challenge, if I go back to the space I'm responsible for around AI life sciences, looking at that value chain of how you develop precision medicines, right from discovery of new targets, preclinical agenda, clinical agenda, going through clinical trials and launching products. There are components of capability along that whole value chain that can be optimized with AI. And where we're at today is that the very early stages, target discovery and early clinical development, they have been proven to be optimized with AI, but they haven't, we are yet to deliver molecules that have been optimized across the whole value chain with AI. And I think there is a wonderful opportunity looking forward to explore the potential for integrating that into the agenda around the interface into healthcare systems, but delivering precision medicines in an optimized fashion so that we no longer have to wait 15 years for these new medicines to develop, but can compress that time scale. That, for me, is the opportunity.
So how to develop precision medicine within those parameters. I think that sounds really exciting. Alana, we are excited here on the M42 main stage to celebrate the partnership with Microsoft. So we want to give you the final word. In terms of challenges and opportunities, share your insights.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you to M42 for being such a great partner, but also as a great innovator. So that really, innovator that I hope is not only doing great work here, but really going to the world. So Abu Dhabi first and to the world next. So that is the opportunity that I see, how what we have been developing here can go to the data that are somewhere else, because it's not about the data coming over, but is that capability going to reason in a trusted research environment over the data where they are. Which brings me to the challenge. The challenge is, how do we make sure that regulatory frameworks stay upbeat to the AI phase pace of advancements? Because if we do that, then we are true to what we need to be to patients, because the data save lives, and AI can make that possible.
And I think that's an interesting word to use. We don't often hear the words regulatory framework and upbeat in the same sentence. So to end on those words, I think, is really powerful, but we would champion being upbeat on many levels. Thank you so much to all our panelists. You set us up on day one with many of the themes that we're going to explore over these 3 days. Paul, I know you're going to be back on stage with us. Vineet and Alana, always wonderful to share a stage with you. To my esteemed audience, please give them a big round of applause.